Hey y'all, welcome back to another mini training in this 30 over 30 series. We are on day 5. I think it's day 5. Yep. Saturday, November 5th. So we are on day 5. And for those of you who don't know, every day in November, I will be doing a mini training live. LinkedIn is my main platform, but I also will be showing up on YouTube and Facebook. And in case you are watching the replay or you're trying to watch the replay, it will be deleted eventually off of YouTube and Facebook. So head on over to LinkedIn so you can catch the replay. And like I said, today we are on problem number 5. So I'm covering 30 aspiring CRA problems over 30 days. And problem number 5, you think that the interview process starts after the recruiter reaches out to you or during the actual interview. Well, guess what? That is not true. It's a myth. And some of you right now might be thinking, what? How does the interview process start before the interview? Well, let me tell you. So, the interview process begins from the very moment that you make the decision that you want to become a CRA. So if you already have if you already have clinical research experience, let's say you're a study coordinator or a CTA or something along those lines, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go to that next level and to become a CRA. Then, or let's say that you are just fresh out of school or you're in a completely different industry and you're like, I want to become a CRA. So right now you're targeting CTA jobs and study coordinator jobs, things like that. Wherever a place, excuse me, whatever position you are currently in, wherever you are in your job search, whether you're in one of the positions or the other, this still applies. Whenever you decide to become a CRA, that's when the interview process begins for you. And so when I say that, that means that everything that you do, every little thing that you do, and I have to keep saying everything because a lot of people, they don't believe me when I say this, or their mind is completely blown once they realize this, but every single thing that you do is a part of the interview process. So what do I mean? What do you mean, Jasmyn, when you say everything? I literally mean everything, y'all. So a couple days ago, I think it was maybe day 3, we talked about mindset and how that's another problem, having stinking thinking. Well, just imagine if you're already going into the process saying, oh my God, it's so hard to get a CRA job, I'm never going to get a CRA job, then that energy, that vibe, that mindset is going to impact everything that you do in a negative way. So that is going to determine whether you get an interview or not, right? If you're already thinking negative, then you're not going to be attracting those interview opportunities to you. Not to mention, you might be speaking negatively to people every time you interact with them, and that's going to leave a bad impression. That's negatively impacting your brand, which we talked about BMS on day 1. Your online presence or lack thereof. If you don't have any online presence at all, I get a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I don't want everybody in my business. I don't want everybody to know. I don't want everybody to know what I got going on. Well, I can understand that to an extent because I was the person that didn't have social media before I really started working on my career. I had LinkedIn and that was it. And even when I first got LinkedIn, I didn't really leverage and utilize the platform like it was intended. But if you are truly serious about taking control of your career and becoming a CRA, landing that CRA job, and really developing your career, not just in the CRA role, but maybe beyond the CRA role or making it to the CRA senior level and doing other specific CRA things, then having a online presence, specifically LinkedIn presence, is a must. It's not an option. And so whether you're not online, which I call the invisible job seeker, that's one of the worst things that you can do, especially nowadays, because there's this huge group of fake CRAs, so to speak, that are out there. And it's people that pretend that they have all of this basic clinical research experience so that they can land a CRA job. Some of them might even say that they've already been a CRA, but they don't have any of that experience. They're getting hired. Don't ask me how, but ultimately through through lies, y'all. Ultimately through misleading, not telling the truth about their past experience. They get the job and then they struggle in the job. So they last for as long as they can, then they get fired, and then they repeat the cycle and hopefully try to pick up as many skills as they can along the way in order to eventually stay somewhere and not be fired. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gets to the point where they've run through all of the companies and then they become blacklisted. Sometimes it's just so hard to go that route that they end up quitting. There's different there's different scenarios and outcomes for each one of those particular situations, but because of this group of fake CRAs that are out there now, they're making it much more difficult for the people that are actually trying to go about it in the correct way, the legitimate route. And so when you don't have an online presence, sometimes recruiters, companies, they get suspicious and they wonder, are you really who you say you are? Do you really have the experience that you truly have? And that's what I call the invisible job seeker, because now you have somewhat like a red flag or question mark over your head. And then if you do have an online presence, what does your online presence say? That goes back to branding when we talked about on day one, I think day two too. But the branding part of BMS, where your online presence speaks to who you are. It represents your character, your vision, your purpose, all those things, right? And so you have to be strategic when it comes to your online presence. That is a part of the interview process, y'all. Your job applications that you're submitting. What are you saying on your job applications? It's not just a matter of submitting your resumes, but sometimes they have some leading questions. And sometimes one of those leading questions is, what are your salary expectations? And if you have absolutely zero industry experience, but you expect to get $150,000, $200,000, then they're not even going to give you a second look, because they feel like, number one, you're delusional. And then number two, how dare you come to the table and request this amount, and you don't even have the value that parallels with that amount. And I have to say this every time, but I don't mean your value as a person, as a human being. We're not putting a price on that. When I say value, I mean your skills, your experience, your education, your expertise that you're bringing to the table. If you don't have any of those things in the industry, in the field, then it's almost laughable that you would request such a high salary, because everything when it comes to business, when it comes to selling, and that's what we're in the business of when it comes to job searching and building your career, whether we want to agree with me or not. That's what we're in the business of. When it comes to selling a product or service, the price tag has to match the value. And so you have to think about that when you're answering these job application questions, when you're submitting your resume and things like that, for these jobs. And then another thing to think about is networking and conversations. Going back to the mindset piece. If you're networking and having conversations with people and you're constantly exhibiting, expressing your stinking thinking, nobody's going to refer you. Nobody's going to recommend you. Nobody's going to even say your name when they're talking to a recruiter, because why would they want to be associated and attached to this person who's always bringing this negative energy to the table? Not to mention, some people aren't networking at all. They don't speak up. No one even knows that they want to be a CRA. That goes back to day one with branding, y'all. Another thing to think about is your social media posts, and not just your posts, but your engagement on other people's posts. What are you posting about? Are you that person that's constantly talking about how recruiters are ghosting you? You don't understand why it says entry level, but then it says 2 years of experience. Are you that person that's constantly complaining about the industry? Yes, we understand. The job application process could use some work. We get that. It's not perfect. But if you're still in that process of trying to break into the industry, bashing the recruiters and the companies in the hiring process is definitely not the solution, y'all. That's not the answer. So that's what I mean when I say everything is a part of the interview process. If someone else is posting something and let's say they're bashing recruiters, and then you chime in and say, I know, same thing happened to me, I'm never going to get a chance. Again, recruiters, wow, I'm talking too much. Recruiters, hiring managers, they're watching you. Why would you say that? They can see your posts. They can see your comments. So please be mindful. This is what I mean when I say everything, y'all, everything, your emails. If a recruiter finally does email you and reach out to you and ask you for your availability, and you take a week to get back, that is speaking to your brands. Nobody wants to work with somebody who doesn't respond in a timely manner. And then let's say you do respond and they ask you for your availability. And this is a pet peeve of mine. You say Tuesday at 10. When someone asks you for your availability, y'all, give them at least, I try to say at least 2 weeks, because you never know if they might be trying to put together 2 or 3 different managers to get on a call. Who knows? But give them at least the bare minimum a week's worth of your availability. But I always say 2 weeks just to be on the safe side. But whatever you do, do not respond with one day and one time, because that speaks to your brand in the interview process. And they're going to take that into account when it comes to whether they want to continue or not. Your current employer. If they reach out to your employer, what are they going to say about you? Are you currently employed? Sometimes they say it's easier to get a job if you already have a job. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have a job, you can't get one. But all of these things are a factor, which is why I say everything. Your resume and your cover letter. What is on your resume and your cover letter? These two pieces of documents are a part of your marketing strategy. They're also a part of the selling piece of BMS. So I consider them to be like ads or flyers. They're pieces of paper that represent who you are, what you bring to the table. They are essentially a description of your services and your product, but your product is you. Your services is the skills, the expertise, the education, all those things, training that you bring to the table. And these two pieces of paper are representative of you. They're part of your brand. They're part of your marketing. They're part of you selling yourself. So what are they saying? Are they saying buy, buy, buy? Or are they saying run, run, run? So you have to keep all of these things in mind when it comes to you reaching that goal of becoming a CRA. And like I said, maybe you're not quite there yet and you're targeting CTA jobs or study coordinator jobs or regulatory specialist jobs, whatever the case may be, the same applies. You have to keep all these things in mind, because the interview process is much more than just the interview itself. It starts from the very moment that you decide that you want to become a CRA. So that's all we're going to cover for today. But I want you to, if you've missed day 1 through 4, please go back and listen to those, because sometimes I cover things that built on previous days. And I do have my one-on-one coaching program open. I'm taking people right now. So if you are interested in working with me one-on-one and letting me help you with things like this, things that I've covered the other days, I go more in depth. It's only so much, y'all, that you can do online. Even in my Q&A sessions, it's only so much you can do. And I would say most people, I would say maybe like 85-90% of the people that come to me don't realize how in depth and how involved career development can be when it comes to putting yourself out there and landing a job. They just think it's a matter of, I submitted my resume, why hasn't anybody called me yet? But especially in this day and age, it's so much more. And that's why I'm really big on BMS, which is branding, marketing, and selling yourself. And I cover all of that A to Z one-on-one. I walk you through the process in my coaching program. So if you're interested in learning more, you can visit aspiringcra.com. And just so that you know, for those of you who are new and aren't aware of the program, it includes 6 months of one-on-one coaching. It also includes lifetime access to the online training portal, which includes all the trainings as well as all of the templates, any template you can think of that you need to complete this job process and land your CRA job, all included. You also get a mock interview with a recruiter. You get a portal with access to all of their recorded sessions that you have, the recorded coaching sessions. And then you get messaging support so that we can interact and engage outside of the coaching calls. If you need CRA.com in order to learn more about that. And then if you're ready to take it to the next level, you can also book a sales call with me from there. And Monday, I'll be starting back up with the Q&A session. So please send me any questions that you have. I think I see some coming through the chat, so I'll add those to the Monday Q&A live session. And other than that, I will be back again tomorrow. I know I said yesterday I would try to do today's session in the morning, but I had so much going on, I didn't get a chance to make it. But tomorrow, guys, I should be able to get it done, get back out to you guys again tomorrow morning before 12. Don't quote me, don't hold me to it, but that's going to be my goal again. So hopefully you guys were able to learn something today. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat here, or you can DM me directly. But thank you again for joining me, and I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow.